The first time my fiancé Alex whispered that his parents think I'm useless, my heart sank. I couldn't believe the people I was about to marry sided with their judgment over me. Stick with me while I share my story, and if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. Alex and I had been together for 3 years. Liv, worked as a kindergarten teacher, and Alex was an engineer. I loved my job and poured my heart into it. But his parents, Mark and Helen, never saw it that way. They often made small remarks about how I wasn't ambitious enough. I tried to ignore it, hoping Alex would defend me, but he stayed silent. One evening, they invited me for dinner. Instead of a friendly chat, they criticized everything I did. They mocked my job and even suggested Alex could do better. I felt betrayed and humiliated. That night, I decided I wouldn't let anyone, not even them, make me feel worthless. Weeks later, there was a charity event for underprivileged kids' education. Mark and Helen were attending, and I was asked to speak. I poured my heart into sharing my students' success stories and the difference my program had made. People clapped, some even teared up. I saw Mark and Helen's faces, they were shocked and speechless. Alex looked at me with newfound respect, realizing how strong I really was. That day, I proved my worth without shouting or arguing. I learned that revenge doesn't need anger, it can be quiet, powerful, and public. I earned respect, dignity, and Alex finally understood that love means standing by someone, no matter what. Liv and Alex met in college and instantly clicked. I was 27, full of energy and dreams, and Alex, 29, was kind and thoughtful. We spent hours talking about our future, imagining a home filled with laughter and warmth. He always made me feel special, and I believed we were unstoppable together. As our relationship grew, we started planning small steps toward our life together, weekend trips, a shared apartment, even discussions about children. Alex was supportive in every way, encouraging my love for teaching. I loved shaping young minds and bringing joy to my students, and I thought he truly admired my dedication. But his parents, Mark and Helen, had different ideas. They often invited me to dinners and gatherings, smiling politely while dropping small, cutting comments. Teaching little kids is cute, but nothing serious, Helen would say lightly, as if it were a joke. Mark would nod, adding, you know, Alex could aim higher with someone more ambitious. Their words stung, but Alex rarely responded, awkwardly changing the subject. I tried to brush it off, telling myself it didn't matter. Yet, their constant subtle criticisms created a shadow over the happiness we were building. I loved Alex, but I couldn't ignore how his parents' disapproval weighed on him, and on me. Despite this, the early days were magical. We laughed, dreamed, and planned together, cherishing small victories. The bond felt strong, yet I knew deep down that I would eventually have to prove that their words couldn't define my worth. It was the perfect mix of love and tension, our joy intertwined with the quiet judgment of people who should have been supportive, setting the stage for the challenges and eventual triumph I was about to face. One afternoon, I accidentally overheard Mark speaking to Helen in the kitchen. His voice was low but sharp. Honestly, Alex deserves someone with more drive. Liv's fine, I guess, but she's not enough, he muttered. Helen chuckled softly, agreeing with him. I froze, my heart tightening. The words hit me harder than I expected. I had always thought their disapproval was minor, something I could ignore, but now I realized how deeply they judged me. I wanted to storm in, to defend myself, but instead, I stayed hidden, feeling a mix of hurt and disbelief. Later, I brought it up to Alex, hoping he would confront them or at least reassure me. He shrugged and said, "They don't mean it like that. Don't take it personally." His casual dismissal cut even more than their words had. I began to wonder if he truly understood the weight of their opinions or if he would ever stand up for me when it mattered most. That night, I lay awake thinking about their comments and Alex's silence. A seed of doubt planted itself in my mind. Could the man I loved choose his parents over me? Could I trust him to protect our relationship against their subtle attacks? The feeling of betrayal settled deep in my chest, unspoken but undeniable, marking the moment I realized my fight for respect and acknowledgement was only just beginning. It wasn't just about hurt feelings anymore, it was about realizing I might have to prove my value, not just to them, but to Alex as well. That sting of betrayal would drive the determination I didn't yet know I had. A week later, Mark and Helen asked me to join them for dinner at their house. I thought it would be a chance to connect, maybe ease the tension, but I soon realized their intentions were different. As soon as we sat down, the conversation took a sharp turn. Helen remarked on my career, saying, "It must be satisfying to play with little kids all day, right? Not exactly a real profession." Mark added with a smirk, "Alex could be with someone who actually aims for something bigger." Their words dripped with condescension, framed as polite jokes, but the meaning was clear. I looked at Alex, hoping for support, but he stayed quiet, fiddling with his fork and avoiding eye contact. It hit me in that moment, this wasn't just about his parents disliking me, Alex wasn't defending me either. The realization stung harder than any insult. I felt completely alone at that table, surrounded by people who were supposed to care, yet instead were tearing me down. I forced a polite smile and tried to answer their questions, but inside, anger and disappointment boiled. I understood then that I couldn't rely on Alex or his parents to validate me. I had to find my own way to stand strong, to prove that their opinions would never define me. By the time dessert arrived, I had made a silent decision. I would no longer let subtle cruelty or quiet indifference make me feel small. That dinner became a turning point, a moment where betrayal transformed into determination. From that night forward, I resolved to show them all exactly what I was capable of, and I wouldn't wait for anyone's permission to do it. After that humiliating dinner, I realized reacting in anger would only make me look weak. Instead of confronting Mark and Helen, I chose a different path. I needed to prove myself on my own terms, without giving them the satisfaction of seeing me struggle or beg for approval. I started spending extra hours improving my teaching program, organizing workshops for children who were falling behind, and creating detailed progress reports that showed measurable results. I reached out to parents quietly, gathering feedback and documenting every small victory. Every accomplishment became a piece of evidence that my work mattered and had impact. At the same time, I worked on my confidence. I practiced speaking clearly and with authority, ensuring that when the time came, I could present myself as capable and respected in my field. My anger didn't consume me, it fueled me. I felt a simmering determination, a controlled fire inside that kept me focused and disciplined. I avoided telling Alex about my plan, he didn't need to know. This was something I had to achieve for myself first. Every small success became a quiet rebellion, a way to reclaim the dignity that had been dismissed by the people who were supposed to accept me. With every late night and every challenge I overcame, my resolve strengthened. I wasn't planning revenge through confrontation or drama, I was letting my work and achievements speak for me. And deep down, I knew that when the time came to show them what I had accomplished, the impact would be undeniable. This quiet preparation became my secret weapon, my shield, and my strategy all at once. A few months later, I received an invitation to a local charity fundraiser. I hadn't expected it, but when I saw that Mark and Helen were major contributors, my heart raced. I knew this could be the moment to demonstrate everything I had been working toward, even if I hadn't planned it this way. During the event, the organizer approached me unexpectedly and said, "Liv, we'd love for you to speak about your program. The audience would really benefit from hearing your story." My stomach tightened, but I nodded. This was my chance, an audience full of people who could appreciate the work I had done, including the very people who doubted me. I spent the next few minutes collecting my thoughts, focusing on the children I had helped and the results we had achieved. I knew this speech couldn't be about anger or proving them wrong in words, it had to be about impact, heart, and the tangible difference my program had made. Walking onto the stage, I felt a mixture of nerves and determination. I glanced at the crowd and, there they were, Mark and Helen, sitting near the front, watching with polite curiosity. Alex was beside them, looking slightly uncomfortable but supportive this time. As I began to speak, I shared stories of children who had struggled and then succeeded because of the program. I explained how the lessons went beyond academics, teaching confidence and resilience. My voice grew steadier as I realized the power of my own accomplishments. This unexpected invitation had given me a platform to show, without saying a single cutting word, that my work mattered, and that I was far more capable than anyone had assumed. Before stepping on stage, I reviewed my notes one last time. I had gathered charts, student progress reports, and letters from parents who had seen their children transform. Every detail was a piece of proof that the program was more than just lessons, it changed lives. When I started speaking, I focused on the real stories. I told the audience about a shy boy who had gone from failing to topping his class, a girl who had discovered a love for reading, and families who felt hope for the first time in years. Each story was paired with clear evidence of improvement, making the results undeniable. As I moved through the presentation, I noticed the audience leaning in, nodding, and wiping away tears. Their attention made me feel a mixture of pride and exhilaration. I wasn't just speaking, I was connecting, inspiring, and proving the worth of years of dedication and hard work. Mark and Helen were in the front row, faces tight with surprise and disbelief. Alex's eyes met mine, a mix of awe and regret showing in them. Their expressions fueled a quiet satisfaction inside me, but I didn't let it distract me. I stayed focused, letting the stories, data, and heartfelt testimonials carry the message. By the end, I was standing tall, radiating confidence. The applause was overwhelming, and I realized in that moment that my impact could no longer be ignored. I hadn't shouted or argued, I had simply shown my value in the most authentic way possible. The stage wasn't just a platform, it was my proving ground. As I spoke, I couldn't help but notice Mark and Helen in the front row. They started with smug smiles, clearly expecting me to falter. Their eyes scanned the crowd, as if daring me to fail. Alex sat beside them, shifting uncomfortably. I caught his gaze briefly, and I saw the conflict in him. For the first time, he seemed to realize how little he had defended me in the past, how often he had let their judgments go unchecked. His hesitation made the tension even more palpable. A lump formed in my throat, but I refused to let it control me. Their smirks were meant to unsettle me, to make me question my abilities. Instead, I took a deep breath and focused on the purpose of my speech, the children, the progress, and the community that believed in me. With each story and example I shared, I felt the weight of their expectations lift. The smirk slowly faded, replaced by silent shock. I could see the disbelief in their eyes as the evidence of my dedication became impossible to ignore. Alex's conflicted expression shifted to admiration, mixed with a hint of guilt. He finally understood the depth of my commitment and the reality of their underestimation. In that moment, I realized I had a choice: crumble under the scrutiny of his parents or rise above it. I chose to shine, letting my confidence, preparation, and accomplishments speak louder than any doubt or insult. The betrayal stung, but it became the fuel for the strongest performance of my life. When I finished the last story, the room erupted in applause. I stepped back, letting the sound wash over me, feeling a wave of relief and quiet triumph. I didn't need to point fingers or call anyone out, the results spoke for themselves. Parents came forward, praising the program and sharing how their children had grown. Colleagues nodded with respect, acknowledging the long hours and care I had poured into every detail. Every compliment reinforced the truth I had worked so hard to prove: my efforts mattered, and my impact was real. Mark and Helen sat frozen, their earlier confidence replaced by shock. Their expressions revealed that they had underestimated me completely. I didn't glare or respond to their judgment, I simply let the applause and recognition stand as my answer. Alex's face mirrored a mix of guilt and newfound respect. He had witnessed the undeniable proof of my dedication, my talent, and my resilience. For the first time, he seemed to understand the depth of what I had endured and achieved without relying on his support. As the standing ovation continued, I felt an inner satisfaction that was more powerful than any words of revenge. This moment wasn't about humiliation or payback, it was about demonstrating my value in a way that couldn't be disputed. I had transformed the betrayal and doubt into motivation, and now, everyone in that room had witnessed it. My victory was quiet, elegant, and absolute, leaving no room for denial. In that moment, I realized the strength of silent triumph and the power of letting results speak louder than insults ever could. After the applause died down, I noticed Mark and Helen sitting in stunned silence. Their faces were pale, and their usual air of superiority had vanished. The confidence they carried into the room had crumbled, leaving only the weight of their own arrogance. Alex approached me quietly once the crowd had dispersed. His voice was low, filled with genuine regret. "Liv, I should have spoken up for you all those times. I'm sorry I didn't defend you," he admitted. His eyes searched mine, hoping for forgiveness, and I could sense the sincerity behind his words. I nodded slowly, acknowledging his apology without letting it diminish my sense of self. I didn't raise my voice or demand reassurance. Instead, I let my composure and calm presence communicate that I had already proven my worth and that recognition didn't need to come from him or anyone else. Walking away from the stage, I felt a mixture of relief and pride. I had faced their judgment, endured their subtle attacks, and still maintained control over my emotions. I hadn't let humiliation define me, and I hadn't compromised my dignity to seek validation. Mark and Helen's silence spoke louder than any argument could. They had witnessed my strength firsthand, and the realization of their misjudgment was undeniable. I carried myself with quiet confidence, understanding that true respect is earned through actions, not words. In that moment, I felt a shift, not just in how others saw me, but in how I saw myself. I had maintained my dignity, confronted betrayal with grace, and shown emotional maturity that no one could dismiss. The immediate aftermath wasn't just relief, it was a personal victory that solidified my sense of self-worth. In the days after the fundraiser, I realized I couldn't let anyone's opinions dictate my choices. I began setting clear boundaries with Mark and Helen, politely but firmly letting them know that my career and passions were non-negotiable parts of my life. I spoke openly with Alex, explaining that my work wasn't up for debate or judgment. "This is who I am," I told him. "I won't compromise my goals to fit someone else's expectations." For the first time, he truly understood the depth of my commitment and the importance of respecting my autonomy. I continued expanding my program, taking on new initiatives and mentoring other teachers. Each decision was made for the right reasons, not to gain approval or avoid criticism. I felt a renewed sense of confidence knowing that my actions reflected my values, not the demands of others. Alex began to notice subtle changes in the way I carried myself. He started giving me space to lead and make decisions independently. He asked for my opinions more, listened attentively, and refrained from minimizing my contributions. Slowly, he came to appreciate the strength and determination that had always been there but had been overshadowed by his parents' influence. With every choice I made, I reinforced the message that respect must be earned through acknowledgement, not through intimidation or judgment. My boundaries weren't walls, they were a statement of self-worth, and living by them allowed me to maintain control over my life and my happiness. By standing firm, I not only strengthened my own resolve but also reshaped the dynamics of my relationship, showing that true partnership requires mutual respect, trust, and recognition of each other's values and passions. Months later, my program began attracting attention beyond the local community. Educational organizations invited me to speak at conferences, and several foundations offered funding to expand the project. Recognition grew steadily, and soon awards started arriving, honoring the tangible impact my work had on children's lives. Mark and Helen, realizing the success I had achieved, reached out with calls and messages, trying to reconnect or take credit. I responded politely but firmly, declining their overtures. Their attempt to involve themselves in my accomplishments only reinforced my decision to remain independent. Every article, interview, and acknowledgement I received highlighted my dedication, creativity, and leadership. People saw the results, the thoughtfulness, and the intelligence behind the program, and it became clear that my influence extended far beyond what anyone had expected. Alex watched these developments with admiration, seeing firsthand the level of commitment and skill I possessed. My achievements were no longer just personal victories, they were public proof of my capability and determination. Through patience, focus, and resilience, I transformed the early doubts and dismissals into a platform for long-term success. Recognition and respect were no longer conditional on anyone's approval, they were earned through consistent effort and visible results. By the time the year closed, my name was associated with meaningful change, innovation in education, and unwavering professionalism. The journey from subtle criticism to public acknowledgement had come full circle, proving that genuine talent, hard work, and perseverance could overcome skepticism and condescension, leaving no room for doubt about my abilities. Sitting quietly one evening, I thought back on everything that had happened, the subtle criticisms, the dismissals, and the doubts. Each challenge had left its mark, but it had also shaped me into someone stronger and more determined than I had imagined. Betrayal had been painful, but it taught me to rely on my own abilities and judgment. I realized that standing firm in the face of doubt was not just about proving others wrong, it was about discovering my own strength and resilience. The journey wasn't about revenge in the usual sense. It was about showing that persistence, dedication, and competence could speak louder than words or insults. Every achievement, every success, was a testament to my commitment and the value of my work. Through this process, I understood that respect must be earned, not demanded. True acknowledgement comes from consistent effort and integrity, not from pleasing others or seeking validation. I had earned that respect, not only from those who once doubted me but also from myself. Alex, too, had grown. He had witnessed my determination, and his perspective shifted. He learned that loyalty, support, and standing by the person you love are not optional, they are essential in a partnership built on trust and equality. Now, our relationship felt balanced. I knew my voice mattered, my decisions were respected, and my passions were valued. Reflecting on the journey, I felt pride, not anger. The struggles had been difficult, but they had led to growth, empowerment, and a sense of equality I had long deserved. In the end, the lessons I learned were clear: resilience transforms betrayal into strength, and true respect is shown through understanding, support, and recognition of one another's worth. Do you think I did the right thing by standing my ground and setting boundaries, or should I have tried to win their approval? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe and hit the bell for more stories.